throw me for a loop, which it did. I was like, you're my hero, and I got to go play, but, you know, it's like, can we talk later? It was just this awkward thing in the midfield.
I actually went to one of their training camps back in, I don't know, probably 1976, 77. Got an autograph from him. He definitely was my idol.
In the 1970s, it seemed like he was everyone's idol.
Little kids would knock on our front door and ask for autographs when he was playing.
I think the only 2 times it upset him was when somebody woke him up on a plane and asked him in communion line.
Yeah,
he thought that was inappropriate.
Actually, to get an autograph, all you had to do was write him. Roz Cole was his assistant back then. She helped him with the thousands of autograph requests and other pleas for help.
It was so important for him to answer all of the mail. He was somebody that people looked at that not only may be able to save whatever circumstance they were in by sending money or giving advice, but got some that thought he could save the country, save the world.
The most important Christmas present you can give this year may be your contribution to the Salvation Army.
He did his best to help mankind.
There are a lot of great moments in life, and you can share them by supporting your local United Way.
And the man who wore a star on his helmet
I'm going to try to complete a 1,500-mile pass to Drew Pearson in New York.
became a star on Madison Avenue.
Hut, hut, hut. How do you spell relief?
I spell relief R-O-L-A-I-D-S.
For millions of Americans, Rolaids spells 100% relief.
How do you spell relief? Rolaids was kind of like,
that was the one.
That was the problem. You'd be walking through an airport. Hey, Roger, how do you spell relief? And it's like, oh, boy.
If the Rolaids commercial annoyed the Staubach children, a 1975 interview with Phyllis George made them a little uncomfortable.
You interviewed Joe Namath. Everyone in the world compares me to Joe Namath, as far as, the idea of off the field. He's single, bachelor swing, and I'm married and family, and, he's having all the fun. And, I enjoy sex as much as Joe Namath. Only I do it with one girl,
There you go.
But it's still fun.
That wasn't necessary. Embarrassing, and we're in our 40s.
Yeah.
I was a teenager. They couldn't be more embarrassing.
It's like, la, 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 like your
parents
yeah.
shouldn't talk like that.
No, he hates it, but yeah.
He doesn't really hate it.
Well, I was kind of shocked that, he just said it right out there. Everybody was trying to make him seem like this really square person that, didn't have any fun. And he's like, that's not me. I have fun. I just have fun with one person, my wife.
Fortunately, it was the truth. No one's got me on that. That's for sure. And they never will.
Of course, we've had our 5th child since then, and I think it was that night, as a matter of fact, when it started, Amy was born 9 months from that interview.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's a true statement then.
The perception was that Staubach was squeaky clean. In most films, this is the point where the skeletons come out of the closet.
I guess it's the challenge of people to put documentaries together to try and find somebody to say a bad word about him, but I wish you all the best in that regard.
Nobody's going to find anything wrong with him because he does everything right.
Staubach has no skeletons, but in reality, Captain America could be both tender and tough, a lover and a fighter.
You think about, who would you want at your back in an alley if you were ever in a tough fight? I used to think I wanted Randy White, but after seeing Roger for a while, I wouldn't mind having Roger Staubach at my back, too. I mean, he's a little white guy, but I believe he'd fight anybody.
In 1976, Roger Staubach did get in a fight with, of all people, his backup quarterback, Clint Longley.
I witnessed it all. If I had a camera there, I would have sold it to 60 Minutes or something, because it was some weird stuff.
Clint was my backup quarterback, and, we got along great. But in 76, we got Danny White came to the team.
Clinton was starting to feel the pressure of Danny and Roger. He knew he couldn't beat out Roger, but he started feeling the pressure of Danny pushing for that second spot.
They get into an argument over an out route or something that was thrown, and Roger said something to him about it, and Clint said something to him back.
And the next thing you know, Clint's feet are in the air, and Roger's got him pinned down.
Quarterbacks don't do this, right?
Using that Navy stuff on him, man, and military infantry stuff on him, man, and we never knew Roger had that in him.
This guy's been to Vietnam. You've been to Abilene.
So next day we get ready for practice. We're in the locker room getting dressed.
And Roger's pulling his shoulder pads on over his head.
And Clint jumped off that seat and just cold-cocked Roger.
Sucker punched him.
And Roger hit his head on that scale, and blood went gushing everywhere.
And turned around like a coward and ran out the door.
Come to the office.
He was packed, ready to go. I mean, it was premeditated.
Before Roger could get to the dorm, Clint was in his car riding down the street and had 1,000 notes. I mean, that's actually the last time I saw him.
The Longley incident left Staubach with some stitches. When we return, an opponent who also wanted a piece of Captain America.
What?
The Dallas Cowboys. They were called America's team, and he was Captain America.
Oh, they hated it. White uniforms and Coach Lanning with his hat and his suit, Roger with his perfect hair and a Heisman Trophy, scrambling around and winning games. They hated us.
We want Dallas! Dallas! We hate you! Dallas!
Nowhere was there greater disdain for America's team and America's quarterback than in the nation's capital.
Listen, they're a bunch of damn front runners, and let's come back at them. That's all they get for the rest of the afternoon.
George Allen, he hated the Cowboys.
The bastards can't take it. The bastards can't take it.
He'd tell us, I hate those sons of guns. Those Dallas Cowboys, America's team. I can hear him right now.
Roger Staubach and company. Roger Staubach, Tom Landry, Tex Ram.
Washington is a very tough rivalry, and in fact, I don't know of any Washington player that likes me at all. There's a couple that really go after me.
Dyron Talbert's job was to get under Roger's skin. Roger was unflappable. Military background, buttoned up. I'm impervious to everything unless it was Dyron Talbert.
Well, these are just crazy little stuff. I probably said some things.
He would challenge his manhood. He would challenge his family.
Never say anything about his mother or anything like that.
I think it kind of got to Roger a little bit.
The only way to really get to Staubach was to beat him, which the Redskins did in the 1972 NFC Championship.
Carter Rasmussen, do you have a message in the office? Carter Rasmussen?
All through the year, Craig Martin had been the starting quarterback. They moved Staubach, who'd been hurt, into the starting lineup for that game. And we beat him up pretty bad.
I didn't have a horrible game. They beat us, and Dyron just couldn't wait to say, we're glad that Staubach was a starting quarterback. And that really ticked me off. I mean, he didn't say that before the game. So the rest of my career, you will not see a loss that was critical against the Redskins. If you want to check that out, by the way.
The Cowboys finished ahead of the Redskins every year but one the rest of the decade. And seemingly, Dyron Talbert never got to Staubach again.
You couldn't hardly sack him because he's going to throw the ball or run around. He was the best quarterback that we ever played, without a doubt.
Roger going deep for Drew down the sideline.
Few opponents got the better of Roger Staubach, but at times he felt limited by his own head coach, who controlled every facet of the team.
Well, it's frustrating when the man that's calling the play sometimes looks at it more as a ball control game. I don't look at it like that.
Let's break this right down there. This is going to be set up.
I called plays early on in my career. That in '73, my mother was very sick and she was dying. And I actually died through that season. She had pancreatic cancer, and we lost on Thanksgiving Day. His thinking was, Roger, I know what you're going through, and I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna start calling the plays. You just execute them, and I know what you're going through. So that was the reasoning. It's what he said to me then. Down deep in his heart, it was going to happen.
I know it was a strange relationship, maybe it was the odd couple, but they were good for each other, both of them.
It's kind of like as a parent, you can't be your child's friend, you're the parent, and he was the coach and Roger was the player, and there was that division. But yet, the time Roger separated his shoulder in training camp and they did surgery on him right away, Coach Landry sat with me that whole morning while Roger was in surgery. So, I mean, that's a side of him. Most people say, oh, he always just stood there with his hat on and didn't smile. But he was really caring.
The other team, Terry Bradshaw, gets to call his own plays, and here you are, a veteran quarterback, and you don't. Doesn't that bother you?
I would rather call the plays. I'm like you, but that's not our system, and we got a great coach, and we've been successful with it, so you can't argue with success.
Now, let me ask you.
Maybe if Grant was calling the plays, you guys might be in the Super Bowl.
I could audible, and I did change people on routes, and he put up with that. In the Super Bowl against Denver, I had Butch Johnson go on a post route instead of an in route. We knew the safety used to hover in the middle there and not get back deep, so I just took a chance and said, Butch, run post, and sure enough, I dropped back, and Butch was open.
Roger goes deep across the middle, way downfield, and Butch Johnson caught! Touchdown!
Watch this catch. He only has to have possession over the goal line. He's got it.
Beauty.
Butch was a great receiver. He goes off the sideline. Landry runs over to him and said, what are you doing? You're supposed to run an in route. Here we are in the Super Bowl, and we score, Mr. Engineer, you know, and he never came over to me and said a word.
With Staubach as his starting quarterback, Landry won 4 NFC championships and 2 Super Bowls. A brilliant run that came to an abrupt end after the 1979 season.
I had 6 times when I had concussions where I was knocked out. And I had 2 concussions that year.
How long can you take that until it starts to pay a price on you?
I really worried about that, and I saw this Dr. Fred Plum up in New York. He said, you know, you're okay in your CAT scan, Roger, but you've had too many. So my records will show that I advise you to retire.
Holy cow, I can't believe this. I am a nervous wreck.
I didn't want him to retire. You know, he's my quarterback. You know, he'd probably still be playing if Coach Landry let him call his plays, you know.
Coach Landry really never tried to talk me into staying. He knew that concussions were worrisome. He also knew that he had Danny White.
The system was successful before me, and it'll be successful without me. Of course, the nuts and bolts of the Dallas Cowboys is Amanda wears a funny hat on the sidelines.
It was sad to see him go. Sad to see him go. He made the game against them worth playing.
America's team rolled on without Captain America, going to 3 straight NFC championships. But they lost all 3. Tom Landry never did win a Super Bowl without Roger Staubach. In April of 2014, Staubach ran with the Bulls. When we returned, the greatest run of his life. In 2013, Jennifer Staubach Gates ran for Dallas City Council. She's a Staubach, so she won. Many assumed that after her father's playing days were over, he'd venture into politics.
If I needed a job, I might have gone into politics.
Before he retired from the NFL, Staubach began a career in real estate, and he eventually started his own company.
Heart and soul of what we're doing basically is the service side.
His first client said to Roger, I love you as a quarterback, I respect you as a person, but Roger, this is business. And Roger says, I understand that, and I'll tell you what, if after we do the work and you're not satisfied, you don't have to pay me. Now, if you want to give me a bonus because I'm going to do better than you anticipate, that's your call.
Roger's been blessed, but it's not by accident Roger's had success. He worked his tail off. You got to study and you got to learn. You got to know it better than everybody else. And he did as a player, and he did when he got off the field in the business world.
We need to do it, so I'll get it done.
He's an icon
in the commercial real estate industry the same way he was an icon in the National Football League. We grew from one office in Dallas to 30 plus offices around the U.S., Mexico, Canada by the time we sold the company in 2007.
Staubach sold his company to Jones Lang LaSalle for more than $600 million. Today, he serves as executive chairman at JLL. But there are still some who wish he'd trade his corner office for the Oval Office.
Oh, yeah. I'd vote for him. I would help him. I don't know how much money I would give him.
I think he would have been elected for any post he ran for.
I'm surprised he didn't, and I think our country's lesser for the fact that he didn't.
He could have been president of the United States.
For Roger to be in politics, he's such a black and white guy, and you need to make so many compromises that I think he would just eventually feel total frustration with the process.
Staubach never made that run into politics, but in a football life defined by amazing runs, one was unquestionably the most important.
The touchdown run he made against Assumption in the 8th grade.
I was running kickoff back against Assumption, and she was a cheerleader running down the sideline, so I'm going to marry that girl. I did, actually. So
the football star and the cheerleader became king and queen of the prom. And 5 decades ago, they married.
Sometimes a kid like, well, were you really nervous the day we got married? I said, no, this is what I wanted. I knew that's what I wanted for my life.
I know I would get married again. To her.
They love each other. They love being around each other.
I think it's the greatest gift they gave the 5 of us. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about football, and that's a big part of our life, but that's not our life, you know? Our life is them. And I think it's such a wonderful example as we go through our marriages, you know? You don't quit, and you're committed, and you love your children unconditionally.
Staubach's gifts and his unconditional love were not limited to his family.
He just really believes that people are innately good. With this little help, maybe, then everything's going to be better for them. And if he can do that, then he's going to do it.
James, who in Scripture, he wasn't a coach or anything, he was a Scripture person, said you show your faith through your works, and I've tried to adhere to that.
And he does it without any fanfare. That's why I don't know how many guys have come to him, because he never brags about it. You know, Roger offered me an opportunity to come work in his company, you know, and I said, well, Rog, you know, I think that's a great gesture. I appreciate that, but I want to start my own business. I want to do my own thing. And guess who was the first person to invest in that business? Didn't even know what it was.
He was there for me after my husband died. We started PPA Marketing. He helped me start that. I had a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old at the time. He wanted to make sure I had something to help raise them, get them through college and all of the rest.
I was coaching at the University of Oregon, and I lost my 18-year-old son. He died in his sleep. We never found out why he died. I was brain dead, completely brain dead. And Roger called me when he found that I was going to move back to Dallas. And he said, you got an office, and he gave me a salary, and he said, you don't even have to come in. You know, and he saved my life.
He saved my life. Yeah, my darkest hour was in a drug rehab in 1983. No money, addicted to crack, contemplating suicide. I called him. He said, you know, the drugs screwed you up, Thomas. He said, but you're a good guy. You've always been a good guy. And I didn't know that I was a good guy at that moment. I've been sober 30 years, and I give a lot of that credit to Roger Staubach. I love Roger. He's a friend of mine.
He's everything that people think that he is, and that's rare. Roger's held to such a lofty standard that it would be hard for anyone to be able to live up to that, but, you know, he does.
If you were to pick the prototype great American citizen, I would say that's Roger Staubach.
I think that Roger Staubach should have the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I mean, this is a guy you can go to war with. This is a guy you can win with, who is moral, practices his faith religiously. this is some special person.
He's the finest person I've ever known in my life.
The kind of person you'd want your children to look up to in every way. And there's so few of those people in life in general, but in sports in particular. And I try to teach my children about him now. I mean, there's some folks who are, I think, similar, but there's only one Roger Staubach.
Who's your favorite Cowboy?
Roger Staubach, definitely.
People are starved for heroes. I think Roger is a person that they look to and see and say, you know, here's a person that didn't have to, but did. I think that's what keeps that star burning so brightly and will continue for many, many years.
Roger Staubach has worn the star and played the part of one without seeking the fame that comes with it for more than 50 years.
Staubach, hit Pearson, what you believe in?
But perhaps he shines brightest when he's surrounded by the points of light he loves the most.